I found out my best friend was dating my ex-boyfriend when she sent me a screenshot of their conversation. About my abortion. The one I'd confided in her about 2 years ago, sobbing on her couch at 2 a.m., the one I'd never told him about. And there it was, in a text bubble with a little heart emoji next to his name. She never even told you, did she? Yeah, she had an abortion. Your baby. Thought you should know. I'm going to tell you exactly how my best friend of 8 years became the person who weaponized my most painful secret. And trust me, you'll want to hear what I did when I found out. Let me take you back to when Sarah and I were actually friends. We met in college, freshman year, in a sociology class where neither of us knew anyone. She had this infectious laugh that made everyone around her smile, and within 2 weeks, we were inseparable. Late-night pizza runs. Borrowing each other's clothes. She was the first person I called when anything happened, good or bad. She was my person. I started dating Marcus in our junior year. He was charming, funny, had this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room. Sarah loved him for me. The three of us would hang out constantly, movie nights at my apartment, brunch on Sundays. It felt perfect, like I'd found my little family away from home. But Marcus and I were young, and honestly, we were a mess. He was jealous, I was insecure, and by senior year, we were fighting more than we were laughing. The breakup was mutual, exhausting, and messy. We both cried, we both said things we shouldn't have, and then it was over. 3 months after the breakup, I found out I was pregnant. The timeline was clear, it was his, and I was absolutely terrified. I couldn't tell him. We weren't speaking. I could barely afford groceries, let alone a baby. I was applying to grad schools, working 2 part-time jobs, sleeping on a futon in a studio apartment with a bathroom door that didn't lock. The decision wasn't easy, but it was clear. I scheduled the appointment for a Saturday morning. I told Sarah the night before. I needed someone with me, and she was the only person I trusted. She held my hand in the waiting room. She drove me home. She stayed with me for 3 days, bringing me soup and heating pads and putting on stupid reality TV to distract me. She never once judged me. She told me I was brave. I believed her. After college, Sarah and I moved to the same city. Different neighborhoods, different jobs, but we still saw each other every week. Marcus had moved across the country for work. I never heard from him again, and honestly, I was fine with that. I was building a new life. I was healing. Sarah started acting weird about 6 months ago. She'd cancel plans last minute. She'd be vague about who she was seeing. I noticed she was on her phone constantly, smiling at the screen in this secretive way. I asked her once if she was dating someone, and she laughed it off. Just talking to a guy, nothing serious, I'll tell you when it's real. But that wasn't even the worst part. 2 weeks ago, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. You need to see this. And then the screenshot. Marcus's name, Sarah's words. My abortion laid bare like gossip, like ammunition. I stared at my phone for what felt like an hour. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely type. I called Sarah. She didn't answer. I called again, nothing. I texted her, "What the fuck is this?" 3 hours later, she replied, "Can we talk in person?" We met at a coffee shop near her apartment. She walked in looking nervous, guilty, but also defiant. Like she'd already decided she wasn't entirely wrong. She sat down and said, "I wanted to tell you, I just didn't know how." I just stared at her. "You're dating Marcus." It just happened. We ran into each other at a work event a few months ago. We started talking. It wasn't planned. And you told him about my abortion. She looked down at her coffee. He asked why we stopped being friends with him after the breakup. I didn't know what to say. It slipped out. It slipped out? My voice cracked. You told him I had an abortion, and you framed it like I was hiding something from him? Like I was the bad guy? I didn't mean it like that. You put a heart emoji next to his name, Sarah. She didn't have an answer for that. And then she said something I will never forget. You never told him. Don't you think he had a right to know? I stood up. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just said, "We're done," and walked out. I sat in my car in that parking lot for 20 minutes, gripping the steering wheel, trying to process the fact that my best friend had just blamed me for protecting myself, that she'd chosen my ex-boyfriend over 8 years of friendship, that she'd turned my trauma into a relationship-building moment with a man I deliberately left in my past. I didn't sleep that night. I just kept replaying every moment, every secret I'd ever told her, wondering what else she'd shared, what else she'd twisted. But the next morning, something shifted. I realized I wasn't going to let her rewrite my story. I wasn't going to be the villain in her narrative. Stay with me, because what I did next. Most people told me I'd gone too far. I opened my laptop and I wrote everything down, not for revenge, but for clarity. For me, I wrote about the abortion, the breakup, the reason I never told Marcus. I wrote about Sarah's betrayal, the screenshot, the coffee shop conversation, and I posted it on my private Instagram story, visible only to our mutual college friends. About 30 people. People who knew all of us. People who deserved to know why I'd suddenly disappeared from Sarah's life. I didn't name Marcus, I didn't have to, but I named Sarah. I explained exactly what she'd done, and I explained why it mattered. Within 2 hours, my phone was exploding. Messages from friends I hadn't talked to in months. I had no idea. I'm so sorry. That's unforgivable. 3 people told me Sarah had done similar things to them, shared their secrets, played both sides. One girl said Sarah had told her boyfriend about her eating disorder to win points during a fight. I wasn't the only one. I'd just been the most recent. Sarah tried to call me 17 times that day. I didn't answer. She sent me a long text, paragraphs of apologies and excuses and accusations. She said I was airing dirty laundry. She said I was destroying her reputation. She said I'd never forgive myself for this. I blocked her number. Marcus, to his credit, reached out a week later, not to defend her, not to ask questions, just to say, "I'm sorry. I didn't know the full story until people started telling me what she did was wrong." I didn't respond. I didn't owe him anything. Sarah's relationship with Marcus didn't last. I heard through mutual friends that they broke up 2 months later. Apparently, once he realized the kind of person she was, he couldn't unsee it. Apparently, trust issues are hard to ignore. I don't know where Sarah is now, and I don't care. I blocked her on everything. I moved on. Here's what I learned. Not everyone who holds your hand during your worst moment is truly your friend. Some people collect your secrets like currency, waiting for the right moment to spend them. And when someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. If you've ever trusted someone with your pain and had them turn it into a weapon, I see you. You didn't deserve that. Your secrets were never theirs to share. And walking away from someone who betrayed you isn't cruelty, it's self-preservation. I'm building a life now surrounded by people who would never dream of doing what Sarah did. People who understand that loyalty isn't conditional. And honestly, I've never felt lighter. If this story resonated with you, subscribe. I share a new story every single week. And drop a comment below if you've ever been betrayed by someone you completely trusted. You are not alone, and you will get through this.